Oh, no problem. I had the gallery was only showing us, but so I changed it so we can see them as well. There's Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you
Good,
for
we
letting
can
me
hear
come in
you.
remotely. You got me?
Yes, we don't have a quorum yet though, so it'll be another couple of minutes.
Okay. No worries. I'm going to mute myself. I've got some dogs barking in the background. Apologies.
That's okay. We like dogs here. We're dog
Okay,
friendly.
awesome.
Hello, hello. Just want to do audio check.
Hi, Dan. We hear
Can you hear me?
you.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks,
You're
Aaron.
welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, how are you? Welcome.
I literally haven't been home yet, so I'm so sorry.
Can you see that? Yes. All right. You want to take one down and pass it around, please? Thank you.
Are we discussing this tonight?
No, just information.
And I did, June's online too, so I did bring June forward in case there's any questions for her.
I don't think I need this. Thank you.
Or is my stuff in your one?
Nope, don't move. I'm good.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay.
The good news is I'm a lefty, so this is the perfect seat for me to be sitting in. Just worked out that way.
Good.
Always nice when that happens.
Do people argue at holidays who gets to sit next to you?
No, they argue that I should go down the end of the table, so I don't nudge anyone through the whole meal. They sit me here. Or they know that I want the lefty seat. So they'll say, oh, Kristen, do you want the lefty seat? Which is either here or there. So, you know, my stepson is a lefty though. So now I'm not alone.
All right, who's ready, Sheena? Those are situated.
Sorry, let me just
Oh, that's okay.
turn off the ringers.
I know did I do that on mine? Yes.
All set. Okay. All right. Call to order Berlin Finance Committee meeting. And the first item is just to approve the minutes from last week. I know you sent out the minutes. So do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Yes, I second. Can I make
Yes.
the motion even though I
Sure.
took them?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 15th, 2025.
Right, and second that. And any other discussion in the minutes? Have any concerns? All right. Roll call, Scott, aye.
Heidi, I.
Sheena, I.
All right, minutes approved, 3-0. Yes,
Yeah.
the whole bunch. Oh, yeah. that's-
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thanks. All right, so we think it started with what the first.
If that works for
Yeah.
you, that would be wonderful. We do have superintendent of schools for BBRC, Al Ganem here, and we have director of finance and operations, Aaron Osborne online, and the facilities director, Dan Ayala. And we are here to discuss Article 2 in the warrant that I have handed out to you. It is to transfer $350,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to replace the roof at Berlin Memorial. And I will turn it over to whoever from the schools would like to speak a bit further to that article.
I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Osborne and Dan to start us off with, if you could, please.
Sure thing. I'll take the lead and then Dan maybe can talk a little bit about the condition. So you have a quote there for $336,700 some dollars. That came about in September. Depending on timing, you know, that could be more. That quote is typically good for about 30 days. Most vendor quotes are. So I think, you know, we need to get a new quote before we move forward. It may go up a little bit. There is also a provision for potential roof deck repair. I want to sort of keep that in the back of people's minds, the decking underneath the roof. I guess we could have included that in our capital request form. I didn't. I think right now there aren't leaks, which is a pretty good indicator of where things sit in terms of the decking. Dan and I have spoken about the roof overall. Our primary concern is that there have been some shingles lost over the past few years. So the roof is definitely, the shingles are definitely deteriorating. We would like to avoid, having to replace more decking. Oh, hey, it's a dog. Hi there. That's fantastic. And I'll let Dan, if you want to speak a little bit to the history. The roof is original to the building, about 25 years old now, a little more. And I'll let Dan speak a little bit more to the condition and maybe provide some more details about the loss of shingles.
Hello, everybody. So yeah, like Mr. Osborne said, the roof is original to the building. We did replace the flat portion of the roof a couple years ago, so that went well. We haven't had any leaks yet on the flat portion. We do have a warranty on that for another 5 more years. Um, Throughout various storms, we do lose shingles every once in a while. We replace them, and if you go up on the roof right now, currently a lot of the asphalt's gone. So it's basically just it's all flat, really kind of like no support. It is a dual layer. So they're talking about just ripping out all the shingles and just replacing them. Like Mr. Osborne said, we don't know if we need any wood or decking on it yet because you got to remove the shingles to determine that.
I think Dan and Aaron spoke, eloquently about it. There's concerns and they're starting to see things happening, and we want to be proactive instead of being reactive. And then all of a sudden that we're starting to have leaks all over the place, and then all of a sudden we're trying to get it in front of the town, and we have to be concerned about the warrants and the timing of all that. So it's maintenance that we're doing in all of our schools as well too. We're in the similar process working in with the town of Boylston for their roofing as well too. Those are the bones of our school, right? As just like your home. But it's certainly something that we believe that is something we need to be looking at now instead of when we're having leaks and buckets and causing more damage inside, which in one of our schools, we have some issues going on that's affecting the interior of the building as well too. And we don't want to see that happening. So that's why we're saying to you guys now, let's take care of this before we're in a situation that causes damage to our schools.
And if you recall, this was a capital request through last year's season.
Yes.
We weren't able to nail down the quote in time. We have done obviously the research since then, the schools have, and that quote is available in the drive for you as well.
And the only thing that Dan and Aaron spoke so well about is that we need to make sure that this is the final quote, right? So if we get the approval from you guys, I think they'll finalize some quotes to make sure, because as we know, and right now things are just ever changing, right? So we just want to make sure we're going to be able to lock in a quote for the exact amount of money that's going to, and get a timeline for that as well too.
And there would be that procurement process
Yep.
too, that you'd have to go through.
Yeah.
And because this is a standalone special article, the way that these work, it's not like a direct transfer to the district. You would submit invoices and we would
Lost the feed.
Hello? Uh-oh.
Hello? Hello?
I can still hear you guys too. We just lost the room.
Oh,
but
okay.
Okay.
Not sure. Kristen is aware of it, and Roger, the cable person, is still working on trying to get you reconnected.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
a little bit different than how we normally do. Right, we normally wait till May and do line item transfers, or we do reserve fund transfers. Because the budget is so tight and it was level funded from FY 25, since in the fall, this is our opportunity to adjust any of the budgets that look like and potential surplus. So basically, this is our one opportunity to move things around till May.
May.
And my concern is if we do that, we might deplete the reserve fund prior. We can make now at town meeting will serve us better in the long run, because you're basically reserve fund, if you will. So to that end, there are two parts. The first part is moving $74,000 from ambulance receipts to fire EMS expenses in the amount of $68,000 for advanced training program for all EMTs, plus required licensure costs and equipment. $6,000 of that $74,000 to fire EMS wages for person with that advanced EMT position in accordance with the collect. So this is new, and Chief McQuillan has been kind enough. Official firehouse dog Fia this evening. If you haven't met Fia yet, she is lovely. Chief could come up if that's amenable to the committee and give a little overview of what he's wanting to do. I also do have a memo from him and cost break.
Yeah, does he think he needs to stay
Oh,
for
there he
the whole
goes.
meeting? Okay.
Oh, yeah, Aaron, if you can. So if that's okay, I'd like to turn it over to Chief McQuillan to give an overview.
Evening. Thanks for
Hi.
having me. Yeah, before you have some information on the advanced care part of an ALS program to look at furthering the department. A little history along, we went from a smaller department that didn't do a whole lot of calls to our call volumes increased. One of the things I looked at was an ALS program and trying to figure out when to start that. Currently, just hired some staff to bring us to replace an opening and stuff, and I'm looking at bringing 24/7 for the department, and that's money that's coming out of our current salary line. Time employees, I'm kind of transferring that to full-time employees just because I'm having such a hard time structuring shifts. So basically everybody kind of looks at that as being the paramedic program. And that's one aspect of it, end of a long-term process to get there. The advanced EMT program that I've kind of put for the EMTs to take, and a paramedic program is something that takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months to complete portions. And I apologize, my dog is she's hey, come on.
Do you normally?
Oh, you know what? She wants to get on the chair. Sorry. I was preventing her from getting on the chair. The advanced EMT program is about a 4-month process. That process teaches the EMT IVs, give some fluids to patients. There are some certain medications they're allowed to give conditions, and for some of the respiratory conditions that we see on the ambulance. That program is a little bit more palatable for the staff to be able to take, and it takes paramedic service that would be required. What we're seeing now is with the shortage of paramedic, our paramedic unit that we use out of Bolton, and our backup one is the Pride Star Trinity in Marlboro. They're further delayed getting to us because they're getting busier and busier, kind of doing other in their own communities and stuff with ALS calls where the paramedics are needed. Advanced care program that we would start with the advanced EMTs would alleviate some, truly work on the calls that they're needed for where the paramedics needed, and the advanced EMT can give and some medications to stabilize patients, and, kind of reduce that reliance. It does allow us to be able to, reduce our expenditures on steps, and we can continue to keep some of that money that we have coming into the ambulance receipt account. Hope is to use the ambulance receipt account along, with some of the equipment buy, for the advanced care program out of public mitigation funds without having. This is all kind of looking at a, if you will, a self-funded program. I believe you have the cost of some of the equipment to get to the ALS ambulance. $5,000, I think, for one ambulance for the cardiac monitor that would be required, and some of the other equipment that's on there. Unfortunately, that number has gone up since when it was about $60,000 to outfit an ambulance, and just because of the increase that took place, it kind of doubled. But kind of showing that.
Is there another?
Yes, I had
I
put
think you're
them in
speaking to a
the-
lot of things that we don't.
Yeah,
have
no, sure.
information in.
I had to drive for everybody.
Okay.
I can see if I can print some off for,
Display it on the screen or someplace.
sure, I can do that. Let's see.
I mean, I just wanted to just kind of go back review. So I'm trying to keep up.
Oh,
The present, I mean, the present services we provide today from describe those, or what's it?
they're
proper
considered,
term?
we're considered a BLS service, which is basic. Kind of the basic requirements for the ambulance, which means we have no interventions for some of the cardiac conditions that patients, we'll do CPR, cardiac arrest. We'll be able to stop bleeding. We can put, bandages on fractures. At the BLS level, there's some medications we can give, like we can give anaphylactic reaction. We can't give it for anything else. And just the basics that we do on the back of the truck. And anything that requires what support, they call for the paramedic unit for that. So anybody that's having a chest pain, difficulty breathing, a lot of that, just until we can rule things out to see whether or not that's anything that requires the paramedic. They start the ALS unit for, which is from another community. So we have a delay that comes when they're here, and depending on where they are, if they're out of quarters for Bolton, it would be coming from Bolton 5, Lancaster, or they're coming from one of the hospitals as they're clearing that hospital.
So we don't have any paramedic services that we do directly in
which it works in Massachusetts. I'm a paramedic, and I have one other paramedic on my staff, firefighter. Because we're not an ALS service, we can't perform at the paramedic. Really different from where I came from before. And in order for us to be a paramedic, submit a plan to the state of how we can do that in 3 years, to have paramedics 24 hours available for medical calls. And if we don't have it available, we have to have a mutual aid agreement with it. Come in and provide those services. Otherwise, we can't be licensed at the ALS level. If you will, that's the reason why we can't operate with the paramedics that we do currently have. Does allow us to work at the advanced level if my staff was able to get their and that's the one that they can start IVs and give some medications with. We can be licensed at that level to perform those.
Okay, so your goal is they said you have to submit a plan, a 3-year plan to the state. Get to the point of even submitting that plan.
Correct. This would, by going to the be able to implement that and start giving that level of care. And then that can start me towards town decides that we want to go to the paramedic level service. Obviously, there's more cost service, and that would be something that is a phased in approach of trying to do this. If we and we were at that level and we didn't go any further, the money that we're spending here wouldn't be wasted be level and not continue on to become the paramedic level service. And it's still a benefit to the citizen.
Yeah, I'm assuming, considering we're so small, are all the other towns this level?
Not all of them. There are, we do have ALS in. There's a few that don't have it.
Okay, which ones?
Clinton does not have an ALS service. Boyle. Hudson relies on a private service that they have, so that then they are capable of having paramedic level service, but we go mutual aid with Hudson quite a bit. And then Northborough, well, actually, I take that back. Northborough is an ALS service.
There's a private, goes to a private
Correct.
contractor for
Yep.
that. And Clinton and Boylston don't, and
hopefully our emergency services for medical response effective, because we're not in turn being billed or giving funds to the other towns that provide the.
We're spending, I believe, about $60,000 to $70,000 is what this year, this fiscal ALS service for the paramedic service to come in. If we go level when we get there, that money we would not be spending.
is this, the present year, you're saying, or past fiscal year, maybe?
Yeah,
Has that been increasing over
it
time?
has. Our call volume has been increasing just as that calls. So as a result, those costs do go up because we have the ALS call pay a fee to those, either the fire department or if it's a private service that comes in that doesn't receives the invoice. We receive an invoice from them and we pay them. So we've probably seen that from an average of about $30,000 to $40,000. It's been creeping up every year as those calls increase.
Do you have a general idea that if the town did want to move services,
Mhm.
do you know, so right here, you talked about, you get 60, 70,000. But what would be like the expense to get there? Is it look at where it's a wash, or you $8,000, getting back 60, 70,000, so yes, the service is expensive.
Right.
As you think, so
We kind of look at it, we're going to end up in a wash where it's almost kind of going to pay for itself as we go forward. Some of the unknowns that we have in that is I'm not sure whether or not there will be a use that we would have within mutual aid where our call volume would increase. Kind of, if you will, responding into Clinton, into Boylston, backing up Northborough, Marlborough, and even into Hudson. And if that was the case, depending on what that call volume is, we make an additional amount of money with that. So it basically, if we were to, I think I have it on there, that if we were to increase by about 1,000 calls, it's about $400,000 that we bring in on that for invoicing and stuff.
So you're looking, sorry, I went to page 2 on this. That's your
Yeah.
paramedic staffing cost as well as your potential revenue.
Correct.
okay, can you go back up to the yellow, the cost?
It's on the back side of
So-
that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, I only had one
Okay,
copy.
sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. So I mean, so let's see, so this is under phase 2 or 3. This would be going to a
Full paramedic level
24
service.
24/7 in the town, so it would be 2 new paramedics, 1 ambulance and 4 firefighters.
Yeah, that one ambulance, that cost $101,000. That's the outfit, the second ambulance at that point with, if we made that move with the ALS equipment that would go on it. So that would be the equipment, not an additional ambulance. That's the equipment needed for our second
The
ambulance.
additional equipment needed
Oh,
in the
correct.
ambulance. Okay,
And I've also, I threw in a couple things there. The new staff, I'm not sure that we would need 2 new paramedics if I had 4 or 5 if I had 4 or 5 firefighters that were going to paramedic school. One of the things that the state OEMS looks at is experience
they have currently. So to that end, I certainly did not want to touch $123,000. So I put that account in last and just took the minimum that I needed to meet the demands that I have here in the bottom table. So to that end, that is a total of $51,250 in not revenue, sorry, in surplus, if you will. And that amount of money is being transferred to several recommended line items. The first is the town administrator expense budget. We did combine the select board and the town administrator expenses, so it's really both that are in there. The select board have not attended apparently the annual Mass Municipal Conference in Boston, which is quite beneficial. It's a 2-day conference every year. They would like to start getting some training for themselves, and at least 2 members have expressed the ability and interest to go. So that it is a little costly. It does come out because you're staying there to about $1,500, including everything when you go. I can tell you I've gone since 2018, and it is one of the most beneficial conferences that I have been to, and it's once a year. So most, you'll find most departments have a 1-a-year conference. This is basically ours. The second item is the survey that is required to transfer the River Run conservation restriction to Sudbury Valley trustees. If you remember back to town meeting, we have, in order to acquire the River Run properties for $1 as part of our River Bridge development agreement, we have to transfer the conservation restriction to a third party or it extinguishes upon our acquisition of the property. That's just the way that Mass General Law works. Obviously, the Conservation Commission does not want that CR to go away, which I certainly understand. So we have been working with Sudbury Valley trustees since town meeting, and they have agreed to accept the property. There are 3 costs that are associated with it. There is a survey that we need to do of the CR. It is an older CR, so they want monumentation, and we also need to shift a little bit of area there. They do not consider Boundless Adventures to be an eligible use for conservation land. They feel that it is an encroachment. So they are asking us to replace another small segment of that land and swap it out for the land that Boundless Adventures sits on. And conservation has discussed that. They don't have an issue. It's because they built permanent structures. So yes, they're in the trees, but they put poles in the ground. They put wires.
Well, wouldn't the conservation people had to approve that building
They-
before they even did it?
They did, and this is where it comes down to sort of opinion. The Sudbury Valley trustees are not obligated to accept our CR, and these are the terms under which they will accept it, because to them, they feel that that's an encroachment upon conservation land.
And so they want us to pay them what?
So, no, we have to pay the survey,
survey for
to
it.
get the site resurveyed for $7,000. But we also do have to pay the legal documents that it costs to transfer it over to them, and that's another $8,000. So it's a total of $15,000. The third part is what they call their stewardship
many places of employment, there's kind of been this attitude like everybody's replaceable. Yeah, everybody's replaceable, but how much time, which time is money, have you spent training a certain employee to lose them to then have to train another person, even if they have experience?
Right.
Everybody does something a little bit different.
And in addition to that, just from a pure numbers perspective, you lose vacation payout every time you lose an employee, because in the state of and
If they,
is under our current policy, been here, you can accrue up to 7 weeks of vacation. And we did have an employee who left, and it was that we had to do a reserve fund transfer a few years ago that you might remember, Scott. That's just from a numbers perspective, not talking about the training or anything else you're mentioning. A lot of strain, so. Plus, we're bare bones really as it is. I mean, most of our offices are. And so then you really have a problem if it's a one-person office and the person leaves, like we had happen with the COA. Months until we could fill the position.
One thing caught my ear, so unionizing, that
Yes,
is obviously very new.
yes, it is. So we received notification. I believe it was in August. That notification from the state that they intend to unionize with the Worcester Teamsters. Go into our first round of negotiations.
Okay.
So part of the complete freeze, whenever you're in union negotiations, we cannot make changes to positions because it's called a potential labor, unfair labor. We will not, unfortunately, be able to do step increases or COLAs for highway. So just something to keep.
but they are aware of that before they decided to jump into this.
I cannot not notified in advance. I assume that their local union would inform them. The superintendent aware, should any questions come up.
People do we have in highway?
We have one vacant position eligible that are currently filled, and then the superintendent who is outside of the. But excluding the superintendent would be 6 with one of those vacant.
Then the unions aren't typically. You have to pay dues, you have to
Try to
contract to a lot of
unionize.
different things other
Oh,
than
yeah.
being an employee of the town is.
I have to remain impartial
I know,
in
okay.
my role, which all to weigh in, that's not a problem. My situation is, if
I
go
know
in,
they have the
we
right
do
to
the
do
fair negotiation
Yes.
process. Everything for me has to be prove to me that whatever you're asking for, comparable communities are paying. I don't mean Rutland, I don't mean Barry, even though their size. As we are in the 495 corridor,
Mhm.
that opens us up to many, many people who live in pay a whole lot more than we do. So you have to take those into account as well. So comparable only communities with 3,000 people. Location.
Yeah, being right on that Middlesex Worcester line.
And the 495 yourself up to Leominster, say, going way down even maybe to like the Milford area. Big stretch, and that's what they look at as part of this study. One of the other things I really liked, because we couple of quotes for this study, the Collins Center was by far the most comprehensive 8-page proposal. They look at the market area. They don't go by as they really take a look at who would actually be applying for these jobs and what other communities are you competing with within the same corridor or space, if you will. They also take a look at traditionally female gendered positions because they are often far lower paid. And an example of those are library positions and the Council on Aging Director. If you look statistically, those positions are far lower paid than other department heads. So wanting to make sure there's equity and parity in pay as well. And I just really liked their approach. They start with a survey with the employees. They sit down, they go over their job descriptions, and they take into account the fact that if you have an office of 2 people and say you're the treasurer collector, you're doing a whole lot more work than a normal treasurer collector would do in an office of 4 or 5 people. And you have to be compensated for that because you're taking on significant extra work that the person perhaps below you or below them would normally be doing, but that person doesn't exist. So it's a really robust look that they take at it that I really liked.
Or could we just as equally argue that not having to do as much people management can be just as advantage? That is not
I
to be
do spend a lot of-
overlooked. I mean, people management can be more of a drain on resources than anything.
Well, and we don't have HR, so it
Yes.
falls to me
You.
and my assistant. Does take up a fair amount of time. Any questions on that plan? All right. The next one is transferring $19,000 into the treasurer collector expenses. Those were the consulting fees I had mentioned previously for closing out FY 25. You may not be familiar, but we had some significant issues in FY 24 with some former employees.
Okay.
And for, confidentiality reasons, I can't specifically go into the issues, but it set us back. Believe it or not, it was a full 2 years. We are literally just starting to be able to get ourselves out of it. So we needed help to catch up on everything that was not done in FY 24, which put us behind in getting everything done in FY 25. The good news in all of this is we are in the process of closing out 25 and we've started 26 on the right note. We have put out our monthly statements and reports for July, August, and September at this time. So we will not be behind. The goal is to always reconcile monthly. Just
So
like
we
you
had
do your
employees
checkbook.
that weren't doing their job and we let them
Correct.
go, and then we hired consultants to come and help us. That's what
We
this
didn't
is.
let anybody go, but we had work that was not being
Okay.
done.
Those people still work for us?
They do not.
Okay,
They resigned.
okay, very good. But the consultants, they came and helped you. That's what it
Correct.
is. Okay.
Yes, it was Eric Kinscherf. They are a firm that comes in and helps cities and towns when they're in this exact situation, or if they're very small, like some of the Western Mass
mhm.
towns, they actually serve as the treasurer
The
collector
person, yeah,
and or the accountant for those communities. Because when you have a town of 500 or 1,000 people,
makes sense.
it doesn't make sense to have a full-time person in that role,
Nice.
or maybe not even a part-time person. We talked about the last 2, so there's just one more, which is oh, I skipped one, I'm sorry. We skipped the fire and EMS 3250. We went to online fire permitting this year, which the select board was pushing for, and I'm really happy to announce that we are fully online now for permits, which means if you are building something, you no longer have to come to the town offices to get your permits. Because even though we had building permits online, the fire ones were not. So basically it negated the whole purpose of having online permitting because people still had to come in person to get their fire permits. And we were having all kinds of issues with some of the major retailers up at the mall because they're based out of Chicago, other states that are not here, and they were flying people in and sitting for hours and waiting. The paper store was the most recent example. They put somebody on a plane from Chicago to basically come and sit outside our offices and get the permits
told
completed
me that,
because
yeah.
they weren't going to be able to open that weekend because the fire permits are not online. So they assumed everything they needed, they had completed. So really trying to be a little more business friendly, and make it easier for folks. So we actually got a great deal. We were able to do a mid-year renewal with them and cap a 5% increase on the building permit software for coming online with this additional piece of the program. So we took the funds out of fire EMS expenses for $3,250 and then $5,000 out of the data systems budget, which is at the top of the next group. So we're just looking to replenish those funds.
We didn't have funds for that. I thought that was what we were discussing. And there was nothing that was allocated for that.
No, we were discussing moving in that direction, and one of the things we want to do, they're in the process of looking at raising fees to help offset the cost of this annual software. So. But we had been looking at wanting to do it for a long time. We were finally able, because we're on our last year of our contract, to say we were in a good negotiating position, basically. We were looking at other companies to go with, and we said, if we want to stay with you, what can you do for us? And bring fire on and give us a good deal on the next 3 years. And they made it work, which was great. So that is Article 1. That is the longest article. I know that's very long.
I was gonna say is,
The other
is
ones
there
are very.
is there concern of that there's too much, lots of things that are just not very well interrelated in one article?
I wouldn't think so. This is how it's traditionally done in most cities and towns. Folks may not be used to it here. We can certainly have discussion on any of the items, but there is no net impact to the taxpayer here. These are all transfers. So there's no raise and appropriate. There's no borrowing. There's no tapping into additional funds that we haven't tapped into yet, like free cash or anything else. So this is really transferring from existing. And I think that's the main point to focus on, and hopefully people will understand. It's really like if you had to set a budget for a year and you couldn't adjust it until May, that would be pretty challenging for folks.
Or just be prepared for that Article 1
Be a little lengthy.
could be, yes.
Fair enough. So that is one,
Depends who
obviously.
attends the meeting.
That is one that does require a finance committee recommendation.
Okay.
I'm not sold on the training, because I think there's other ways to fund it, but I agree with everything else.
With being other ways to fund it, could we, like, say we fund it this way and then we do find other ways? Does this just get replenished by,
So-
say, a grant or something
Yeah,
like
this
that?
is a one-time transfer of the 74 just to get us up and running.
Okay,
So if there were other funds that would come in, it would go into that ambulance receipts reserved account and be available for other needs.
Okay. Thank you.
Good questions.
All right.
Guys keep me on my
So-
toes too. I like it because I'm telling you, one brain can't do it all. So nope, that's why we need all of your collective minds.
All right, so the motion is for recommendation to Article 1, adjusting the FY 26 operating budget as stated in the article. Would that be sufficient? Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So any further discussion? Okay, roll call, Scott, aye.
Heidi, aye.
Sheena, I.
All right. Article 3, recommended by Finance Committee, 3-0.
Nope, I think you're done.
Article 2, I mean, let me say
One.
part of it.
Oh, one,
Article
sorry.
1.
Article 1, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going on to Article 3. I was gonna say, those are your two financial articles for
What happens
folks.
when it's 3 people, it's 3 zeros. Okay,
And if you do have questions or curiosity about the other items on the warrant, I went through the full warrant with the select board last night. That video should be available shortly online. We are also having a town meeting information session Unfortunately, the state does not release information on a business by business. So we have tried DOR, we have tried the town of Hudson. Hearing anecdotal evidence.
Okay.
Because I mean, one of the, you can figure out some that they're making, the town's getting $50,000. Yes. So if you're
Half of it's
getting,
from me.
and you have to divide that by 0.0075. So you're one Starbucks does revenue of 6.7. If you go online and look at what average Starbucks and things that you get arranged, you get double.
Okay.
I just say, I mean, you can go online and get some ranges. I mean, there
Yeah.
are ranges, but that's what people said things, Chick-fil-A or whatever, and I've gone online, you can go and it's a big range, right? Because you're getting only that 0.75%.
Right.
You add, it's a hell of a lot of revenue, and you figure out, well, what is that per day? I mean, it's
And it may not be, I think the main point with it is regardless. Higher than what we're able to bring in with stores without drive-throughs, stores without drive-through. I'll be honest, they're lazy, they don't want to get out of their car, they'll go to a drive-through before they go to a store that they have. What we've seen consistently going on up there. Chick-fil-A also wanted to go on our side. I mean, and that's not anecdotal. We have talked to Benderson about it as well. I feel like you can only gain, you wouldn't lose, because it's set so far back off. Ash was a concern with folks on with drive-throughs down 62, because if they're coming out of the Hudson side right now, they're going down through Berlin to get on 490. So which side it's on, you're not going to see an increase in that regard. And I believe it would only be an increase in revenue potential to be inside. That's my
Right.
personal opinion, but
that's why I like this, let me say. They kind of put some numbers
more tangible.
behind
Yeah.
it.
Right.
And that's what we know. In other meetings, I've been through this with the town stuff, and that's,
Yeah.
the one thing is, as opposed to any actual data that would make things sound. And that's where, say, when I hear like
Get a
a
little
number, like, hey,
frustrated.
you can do the math and you can
Yeah.
go. Make a lot of sense.
Right. Well, and I think sitting on the FinCom, it's completely appropriate to ask. I can just assure you that I have tried 6 ways to, whatever that expression is, to try to get pumping a colleague. And just could not get it. Fortunately, that's where we're at, but I can understand wanting to have the numbers. I wish.
It says the average Chick-fil-A makes $8 million.
I mean, they have people outside taking orders in 2
Yeah.
line because they can't service them at the drive ads or whatever it is to take orders.
Well, right, I mean, that's like a Chick-fil-A, but we were just at equivalent. Well, again, and the
Oh,
problem is you have those, that, again, it's the averages, right? Like, well, you have the ones that are in super great locations, and then, well, what is that super, that great location?
And it's hard to figure out.
Right.
what-
In the Highland to even, there's partner BJ's, is that ours?
It is that.
That's ours.
And
but-
those 2 other places by the dental place that the building's built, but there's no
Yeah.
businesses
Yeah,
at the stop sign and nobody stops at,
yes.
right there where.
Which
because
I
you have
still
the
can't
dental
figure out why the
office.
stop actually belong on the other side. Hudson side.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always go on the Hudson side because I'm usually going to Starbucks or Panera. I'm one of the guilty lazy people that doesn't want to get out of their carbs. Yeah, the other option too is Benderson. Potential additional development up there if it makes sense. Obviously, they'd have to go back to the planning. is what they call, they rate shopping centers. I did not know this, on a scale of letters. This is an A shopping center for them. This is top priority because for them in the country. Now Benderson is nationwide. So this mall is big business.
I know, I was surprised with a Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Yeah. But like you said too, for the relatively short time, we've seen businesses already come and go.
Correct.
I mean, like Bed Bath and Beyond, that's a national thing, not even
Right,
specific.
right.
You know, just kind of like many of the ones that have gone have also been ones that doesn't matter what mall you look at.
Yeah.
Sears,
Well,
there is the standard. It's always worrisome when you're losing something that everybody else still in business.
Well, and if you're, I mean, Chick-fil-A, not maybe the best example, but if you're a company making year, perhaps some type of a buyout would make sense for you with a smaller business. I mean, it happened.
mhm.
All right. That was
Your
that was
take.
my question on that guy, because I have been through this with
But that
several
question,
town meetings.
that question
and
makes. And
it may very well-
unfortunately, like Kristen said, unfortunately, it's not public information
it's-
in the positions that they're in. If they did divulge that information, they're, in their position.
Well, I mean, it's still one of those things that you'd expect that you could, I mean, first of all,
Mhm.
and a franchise is going to have to advertise and sell for people. Still certain level of information that would just be out there. Starbucks in, Massachusetts or 490. Typical expected revenue.
Sure.
Right.
Or Chick-fil-A. I mean, there should be. You almost think there'd be some university
So
that
you-
would have
so
to
you-
study someplace.
You need to call. Say, I'm interested in purchasing.
Interested.
I was gonna say, I feel like perhaps, and you've signed the agreements or you've signed an NDA perhaps. Industry secret, right? So
Yeah,
it's,
I mean, everything is right. I mean, you get the details would become industry, but there's got. Or just drawing people in the first place, right? It's like you gotta have something that you're,
Yeah.
there is something that.
yeah, I've
That's
only
right.
ever worked in municipalities. I am not a private sector. To kind of how that works from a marketing standpoint, but I know they are able to keep a lot in the private sector, but we are not, so.
So even if the stock market,
That I don't.
just.
Yeah.
Where
Problem is like a lot of those is, I mean, that they're, like, I mean, if you took like, McDonald's, which. Non-franchise ones, I mean, they just, there's so many of them.
No,
Just all Starbucks are not, none of them are.
You can buy the licensing to put it in a special place, but
They're,
let's see how much to buy Chick-fil-A.
gonna go right
If we-
back tonight,
yeah, we're gonna,
got $5
yeah.
in my pocket. That's all I had for you this evening since last time, and we will meet again to go over the memo, which I will be working on putting together.
What did I have? I have our next meeting scheduled for. November 12th.
yes.
7:30, November 12th, we'll review the budget memo, finalize the packet, and on November 19th.
Oh, and then one thing I know it's not one of our Article 5, striking the 7:30 PM
Mhm.
is that just so that time of the meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
And that would be set by the perhaps the content of the meeting, say you had a school article and maybe it works better for parents. Or you can target it to what's on the warrant. Have a warrant with 40 articles. Better to start at 6 or
Earlier.
6:30. Maybe you could get it done in one night instead of having to go to 2. This case.
Okay, anything else?
All I have for you.
You have a second?
At 9 o'clock on the dot. I second.